All right, I'm back in action. I'm back from my cruise and whatnot. Good. Hey, everybody, it's Jason from Ronin Bodyboards. Back to do another Boog Chat. I don't know if anybody saw the post. I got a few topics I want to touch on today, and we can talk about some stuff and get back into it. Had a pretty good vacation, and then I've just been swamped since I've been back, so I haven't had a chance to do any of these for a couple of weeks. But I'm back home. I'm going to be doing these again. So, um, yeah, looks like we got one person here. Thanks for showing up. Of course, it's Nick. Good to see you, Nick. Looks like you had a pretty good vacation too, man. I've seen some pictures that look really cool. So, hope you had a good vacation, Nick. I sure did. I was on a cruise ship cruising around Baja, listening to a bunch of blues music. It was really fun. Left out of San Diego all the way around Baja and whatnot. It was a heck of a lot of fun. Good R&R for me because no work, no cell phone at all, reception on the boat the whole time. So it was pretty nice to just to detach from social media and all the obligations and emails and whatnot. Yeah, it was killer. I loved it. It was a good detachment. Anyway, now that we're back in the swing of things, I have 10 boards I'm working on. Like I said, you always pay the price with going out of town. So that's kind of all the things that are stacked up back here. Good little mix of boards. Plus, I have some boards. Some of my older tubes boards are back over here. You can tell they're all the V-tails because it's all the older tubes boards are all V-tails of mine. So I want to touch on the topics I want to hit on tonight, or some of my older tubes boards, the next series of those, and then what bumpers do for a board. Bumpers are the pieces that go on the nose and tail. Yeah. So they kind of pad the nose and the tail from impact damage. I'll get into more of that later. I'm just kind of touching on things. And then I also want to hit on the skins that I get. There's two types of skins. There's some skins that are made in the USA, and there's some skins that are made over in Taiwan. So there's 5 basic colors. I guess I just hit on the skins first because it's a really easy topic, even though there's not too many people here yet, and I don't want to get too into the topics because I'll end up having to do them twice. So maybe, I've been surfing my brains out this week. There's been a good run of swell here. I've been in the water every single day this week. Actually, not yesterday, but every other day I was in the water. Especially Monday was a couple feet overhead at Morro Rock. It was really, really fun that morning, man. It was like 100-yard rides off left-handers off the rock. It was super fun. Overhead waves. It was nice. Offshore winds, starting to get the offshore winds here too. It's been really nice. Just cold, man. After we had that storm that came through and got some rain, and then right after that the wind went offshore. It's been beautiful here, but cold. Man, we've had a pretty fun round of swell, Nick. Let's see. So I guess let's do skins first. Like I said on the thing that I get skins from 2 different places, and the skins that are made in the United States are I get 5 basic colors. There's black, white, blue, red, and yellow. So those are the 5 colors that I can get that are made in the United States. I have a couple of the colors here. I have black, white, and red. I don't have the yellow and the blue, but I'm going to be getting some soon. But as you can see, this is the white and the red that's U.S. made, and then I have a couple of the other pieces here that are. These are some of the Taiwan skins. So we'll go over the differences between these. I mean, as far as they're both polyethylene. I mean, they're both really good quality. They're just they're made in different places in the world, so they're going to have different qualities and properties to them. Even though they're supposed to be the same density and have the same characteristics, they are a little bit different. So those 5 basic ones that I have that are made here in the United States, they're actually, if you look at them, they're just a little bit thicker. They're maybe even a 16th thicker than the stuff that's made overseas. If you just put them up next to each other, the red and the white, the black, the blue, and the yellow, those skins, and there's in my opinion they're a little bit more durable too because they're a little bit thicker. So you get having different thicknesses of skins also affects other things. You're trying to hit target finish dimensions, but then you're working with different materials, and you all have to finish out at the same thing. So the material sandwich with these, and how thick you sand the core, and how you cut the rails to finish out at the proper dimensions, depending on which thickness of skin you're using, it becomes like a little mathematical kind of battle trying to figure all that stuff out. So yeah, I mean, as far as the skins go, I like I said, there's only 5 basic colors in these, and then all the fancy colors that I get's like the gray and the greens and the pinks and all the other ones that I have, the light blues. Those all come from overseas. Now that's why I buy from there, because they have all these awesome colors. And there's some other things about them that the overseas skins, they come pre-backed. There's one side that's like a bare PE face, and then the other side actually is backed with adhesive already, which helps out with when you go to sandwich just similar materials together. So that's really helpful that the skins that I buy overseas come pre-backed with the stuff that I need. Now the other skins that I buy, these ones don't come backed with adhesive, so they're basically the same PE face on both sides. Now, I have the ability here in the shop to back my own skins with that adhesive material. So that I don't know, it's kind of hard. The white's always hard because it washes out. But this one actually is backed with adhesive. I don't know. I'm trying. So I back this one for and then you need to do this in certain steps depending on what you're trying to attach things to. So certain times it needs to be backed with adhesive. So that's what's really cool. So as far as the size comes, when I buy them overseas, they come in 2 foot wide by about 46-inch long sheets. They're pre-cut into that size. I got one right here actually of the new blue too. So I don't know. You can this one's kind of maybe too big for the camera. You can I'll get this is the size of sheets that I normally buy from overseas. So it comes pre-cut to this size, and it works for darn near any board because it's 46 inches long. And if a board gets really long, you just put a tailpiece on it, and that saves a few inches off if you need to make a longer 44-inch board. So you still have to wrap over the nose and wrap over the tail skin. So you got to have enough length of the skin to wrap over the nose and the tail. So you got to imagine because of the skins are different thicknesses, when you go to wrap it over the end of the nose and the tail, that affects the dimensions of the board too, and how you cut the core so you finish out at the right thing, because those skins are thicker or thinner depending on where I bought the skins and what skins are going on the board. So it really becomes a math. You're fine tuning these numbers throughout the shaping of the board, so you're coming out close to the target dimensions of the board. So that's just a quick rundown of the skins. Like I said, the ones I get from overseas come cut at that size. Now the other 5 colors that I get domestically, you can kind of see the red that right back over here. It comes on a 4-foot roll that's 250 feet long. So those things come, you have to buy a big roll of this stuff, those 5 colors, but it lasts for a lot of board. It works for a lot of boards. So it actually is it's cheaper to buy the American skins than it is to buy the overseas ones, but people love their colors, so I got to have other stuff. So I've got another person here. Thanks for showing up. Anybody's got any questions or comments, you guys, I'll just start throwing them in there. So the skins, and as far as the other skins, like the blue one, I have to buy 50 sheets of those sheets, but each color minimum. That's the minimum I buy. So it really starts adding up with numbers, how much I can buy each year. I just try to cherry pick some really cool colors that I know people are going to like, and then I buy those. So I don't know. I've been pretty lucky with colors, and I think I try to offer a color range that maybe a lot of other guys don't have. I know, Andrew back east has got the same color range because we're buying stuff together these days. So he has the same kind of stuff that I do. And he's actually getting some of the yellow and blue here real soon. So he said he might even send me some. So we'll see. Maybe I'll have some yellow and blue here to play around with. That'd be kind of fun. I haven't had the American yellow and blue. The yellow I had from way back on some. You've seen some yellow on some of my boards. Those were a Taiwan yellow. Yeah, so I mean, it was good because it was pre-back, but I sure wish I had the yellow from. You're going to see some of that yellow in some of these other boards that I have, my tubes boards that are right back here, because most of my old ones are yellow and black. I have a lot of yellow and black and white and some gray, but we'll get into. I guess we could probably get into that now since the skins are kind of covered. Nobody really got any questions about the skins. And like I said, if you missed the chat and you're watching this later, just comment below, and I'll try to answer questions about things that I've talked about too. You don't, even if you missed the live thing and you're just watching this on replay, I'll definitely go back and answer questions if people leave comments on the video. Anyway, so I guess the last board that I had, we were talking maybe about how I was going to start doing some deck contours and stuff, and I started laying out. And maybe I think this was one of the last boards I showed, and you can kind of see where the lines of the whole contours that I'm putting on a lot of my boards these days. This one just had a horseshoe, V-tail, single concave, PP core. I don't know if this one's a V stringer yet, but I wasn't too long before I started putting double stringers in the V, like from the tip of the tail to the center of the board. So all the boards we're going to be looking at all have that stringer set up for a while. No mesh yet either. That's another thing that I didn't touch on maybe in the first thing, is that none of these boards had mesh. Tubes wasn't really doing mesh back then yet. So a lot of these older ones don't have mesh on them. So like I said, I had this one. What was good till obviously we're also we're going to touch on maybe some bumper stuff earlier too. So before this is all up, but this board isn't bumpered. Some of these real early tubes boards, they don't have bumpers either. So that's one of the cool things to see the evolution of the bumpers. And I don't know, man, maybe because this one didn't have bumpers and it might have taken some tail damage on the corners, that might have started to some of the corner D-lambs that led to the whole Surlyn just peeling off the bottom of this one. And, it's a black bottom slick, and I might have been leaving it in the sun. It might have been part of my fault and part of a little bit of the corner impact damage. That's why you should always store boards on their nose. If you look at all these boards that are sitting back here, they're all on their nose. It really is a better way to store a board. So you don't get into this corner D-lamb stuff. So anyway, let me throw this one off to the side. And then we can start looking at some of the really the first ones that really had that deck contour on them. Now this one was right around that one time too, but you can see it was the first one I started playing around with some GoPro mounts and stuff. So it kind of, I know the plug junkies out there are going to get crazy, but I had a whole tail corner mount off of this one, a pole on one. And then I had a couple different, a GoPro mount up here. So I have some pretty cool GoPro shots off of this board out around Morro Bay, out in the waters around here. So, any of the GoPro videos I have on my Facebook and stuff, they're all pretty much from this board, unless I was holding it on a stick. But this one, I think it has a black PP core. It was one of my first black PP core boards, and it only has the horseshoe cut. It didn't really have the whole first thing, but it's a single concave V-tail. But you can see this one, it's like one of the first ones that it has a bumper in here. So, there's a lot of manufacturers, and back in the old days, people didn't even use bumpers. So, I don't know whether tubes. I don't know who started doing bumpers. It's beyond my knowledge. But when I started getting them on my boards, it was probably around this board. You can see it has an extra layer of material in here. And back in the day, they're using this is the American USA made, yellow skin. It's wrapped over the tail, but then there's another little piece, the little gray piece in here. Now that gray piece is actually a cross-link polyethylene, and it's a higher density. It's even more like you can't squish it. It's way stiff, right? So what that does is it kind of pads the corners and stuff. And now, all of a sudden from here on out, you won't see any corner damage on any of my V-tails because I started storing them on their noses, and all the boards had bumpers. So it leads to not getting these corners de-lambed. Anyway, so this is a cross-link polyethylene. It's a higher density, and it's really good for impact. And it seals. It's a polyethylene, so you got a polyethylene skin. Those two things just stick together. Then you got one on the back side of that. It's coated with the adhesive, so that's how you get it to stick to all this other stuff. That's it's polyethylene, but you got a polypropylene core. So that's how you got to stick all that stuff together, is by those adhesive layers that are on the backs of skins or bumpers or whatever. So anyway, this one's cool too. It's got like a checkered pinstripe. It's one of the first checkered pinstripes I had on any of my personal boards too. Also, I started, it was right around here, I started putting nose bulbs on all my boards too. Around this time, I was like, man, why aren't there little bulbs on every board I get? So from here on out, all the boards will have slick bulbs on the bottom side. This one just has a horseshoe top. So that was my GoPro board. I used that one for, that one still, you could probably go out and ride. It's kind of thick though, man. It's got a lot of weight to it. So, maybe right after this is probably one of the first ones that does have the contours on it. that you see on all of my pretty much all my Ronin boards and stuff have this same contour. But this is probably one of the very first boards that I ever even put that contour on. And this one had a twin, but it was opposite colors. So everywhere was black, I was yellow, and actually a buddy of mine here in Morro Bay actually has that board still. So I sold it off to him, and that's way back before I was even making boards. These are all boards that I paid for from the Tube Factory for custom. So this one's V-tail, single concave, my contours, double V stringer, and it also has the crosslink bumper in here, on nose and tail. It definitely has that extra bumper material. This one doesn't have bulbs on it. I don't know why, but man, this is a good board. This thing is still flat and almost darn near perfect. This one went on some of my first trips to Hawaii too, and it also has a GoPro mount in the nose as well. Man, this board's actually pretty good. It's in pretty good shape. So yeah, they're all 42-inch single concave V-tails. That's all I ever rode back in the day. Hey Jonathan, it's good to see you. I see your question there. The angles of the V-tails, by the time some of the other guys, before I started getting in and started shaping my boards, some of the other guys already had the V-tail numbers for the boards and the angles. So by the time I got there, I had multiple examples about like how to do a V-tail, and I'm a internet kind of junkie too, so I get on and look at pictures and find things of other examples of V-tails, so I can kind of look at those and get. And I'm a very visual person. I can that's an 1 3/4 or 1.5 inches. I can kind of visualize what it needs to be. Just I got a pretty good eye from that, and I've done so many V-tails now. I mean, I just know the numbers that I need to. From the center of the tail, how far I need to go back in the board, and then it's just from the corner of the tails to that point to kind of cut the lines. Here's your this is your wide nose tombstone right here. It's got a V-tail, and it's got this is the difference between the bumpers that are my tubes boards than what we're using these days. This is a polypropylene. It's an expanded polypropylene, and it's the same stuff that I back my skins with too. So yeah. So anyway, here it is. I'm just getting ready to do deck contours. I got all the slicks and just did all the bumper work today on all the 10 boards I'm working on. So that's one of that's your wide nose tombstone. Man, I haven't even ridden one of the wide nose tombstones yet. I really want to ride one day here real soon. Where's the other one? It's way in the back. So yeah, your board's getting the normal contour, and it's like one of the original style three channel 3 scallops. It's like Ronin number 1 has this basically the same setup with tails and channels, and I really still like this. 3 channel still works really well with the 3 scallop tail. It's an awesome setup. Yeah, Sterling, the rubber ducky stamp. Yeah, the rubber ducky stamp has a cool story because I stayed with Jordan Stollard on the North Shore last year, and I might stay with him again this year as well. Hopefully, I'm hoping. So he has an Instagram account called what is it? Some rubber ducky or something like that. And he goes out and he takes pictures of the rubber ducky getting like completely barreled and pitched over the waves, and water shots with the little rubber ducky. It's a really cool account. I should look it up. It's called Ducky Goes. That's what it is. Ducky Goes. You can look it up on Instagram. That's Jordan Stollard. He's a really good guy, bodyboarder. He's a huge body. He loves taking pictures as much as he loves riding. He's just an awesome dude. Anyway, he has that account called Ducky Goes, and I came back with him from the North Shore. I was like, man, it'd be kind of cool to have a rubber ducky stamp. So I was just like, okay, make it. And then I think I didn't even get a chance to really even finish it. And then Jonathan saw it on, and he's like, "Oh, I want that on my board." So we've been putting it on all his boards. So that's what you're seeing here is that he has both of his has those rubber ducky stamps. So yeah, I mean that last blackboard was probably one of the first ones I took to Hawaii too. So that would have probably been around 2014 or 13, maybe around there is when I got those boards. So they're I really love the V-tail. Single concave. It was my go-to for a lot of boards. And I'm sure this one wasn't too far after that last one. It's just a white, and it's got a checkered pinstripe. It's got nose bulb, single. It's full single concave. another V-tail. Yeah, it's pretty cool too because this one you can even see they checkered the bumper, so that's pretty cool. Even up through the nose, it has a checkered bumper, so it's pretty super cool custom. Yeah, I love checkered rails. They look really cool. They're a cool detail. So yeah, I mean, and this one's got a kind of a cool like mosaic deck stamp too. We were doing some cool stuff with deck stamps long before they were doing all kinds of crazy stuff in the factory. I learned a lot of cool stamping tricks from working at the tubes factory. How to put different foils down and then stamp it. That's kind of how you get those different color schemes on one stamp. You just put a bunch of different pieces of colors and stamp over all of them and see what happens. It's kind of a fun process. Yeah, you can see like. Here's a little mini I got going on too. This one's going to go up on the website. Some people were talking about one of the black DK board I just made. Somebody had mentioned, oh, that'd be cool. It'd be a mini board on the Facebook post. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just mosaic stamp it and do a raised rail. It's got a single to double concave bottom. Mosaic stamped it. Put the raised rails so you can hold on to the, if you got the thumb wrap and whatnot. That'll be up on the website. See it here. Yeah, Sterling, we can do that rubber ducky stamp on your next board. That's fine. I know how you like your ghost stamps too, and keep it simple. We'll make it discreet, but we can put it on your board for sure. Yeah, Jonathan, you're not gonna be disappointed with the V-tail, especially on the tombstone. It's gonna be a great tail. Yeah. So and then, and this would have been on like my second trip. I got this board. This one is also a single concave V, but I really got crazy with the stamps on this one. This is the one that I rode this board at like the Ayukai sandbar for right next to Pipeline, my very first time out there. This is kind of the board I was riding. Man, I have some very fond memories on the sandbar. It was a couple feet overhead, and God, it was just so fun. I remember having it has water in the stringer too. Like it still has pipeline water in the stringer. That's what it kind of brings back some sentimental memories for me. But still, what's crazy is still none of these boards have mesh. So that's what's crazy is that I went through all these years of. That's why I always rode a double stringer on all these older boards. A single stringer without mesh, even at home, was just a little bit too flexy. But man, these things sure held up well. You can plot some of my Ronin boards. Maybe I'm just riding harder these days, and I'm a little bit heavier too. But I'm creasing boards a lot more. I notice a lot more elbow creases in my boards I'm riding these days than my older tubes boards. I don't know, but yeah. So those are a few. They're all V-tails, and I have a stack of them. But that's over 15 years of riding, and I still have a few more to share later too. This is just for like the middle years of me being at tube. So I have like the later years where I start getting into a little bit. I've been, like I said, I rode those single concaves for years. I just love that. It's a great hold when you put it over on rail, but it's still kind of loose when you get it kind of flat. It doesn't track like a multi-channel board does. So then once I got into doing the multi-channel boards, and then you can ride more flat on them, and they track and hold their direction better than just a flat bottom board or even the single concave. It's just single concave will hold when you're riding flat, but I think it doesn't track as well without the ribs in the bottom and the multi-channel. So it's one of the benefits of having all those multi-channels. That's how come I don't ride a single concave anymore, is because I realize there's some benefits of having basically just putting ribs up through a single concave. So to create all the channel work. And so you're getting a lot of the same feel when you have it on rail, but you're getting the added tracking of all those ribs throughout the bottom. It really does help hold and track your board in its direction. Yeah. So if anybody has any other questions, I'm glad. It looks like we got 6 people here. I'm glad some people showed up. Anybody has any questions, hit me up, man. Like I said, I want to answer questions as much as I want to sit here and babble on about some of my boards and stuff. So. Yeah, we're also going to talk about bumpers. I got into the bumper stuff, and then like I said, I have a piece of the crosslink here, but I don't use those crosslink bumpers at all anymore because of how I do my deck skin backing. And it's just a better way to do things is to use these modern bumpers. So, like I said, the bumper material I buy, I get it in big rolls. So it comes, and that's the black stuff you see now on all of the, like I was putting on all the boards back here that I'm working on now. is all of this black bumper stuff. That's this material. And like I said, this stuff, it's polypropylene. So, I mean, it would stick to the core, but it's not going to stick to all the backings and the sirloin and all that stuff. So this stuff actually comes coated one side with the sticky stuff. So you stick the sticky stuff to that, and now it's polypropylene bare to the outside. And that's kind of what you're seeing. These are all double bumpered. That's even a whole nother concept. Yep, every one of them. Now these actually one here is. So this just has so this is all polypropylene core to polypropylene bumper. So now polypropylene will roll and stick to all this when you go to laminate the deck skin across. And okay, so that's what I have here. So this is actually a piece of blue that's from overseas that has that same black stuff backed onto it. So this is how I do all my deck skins now, whether it's a U.S. skin or overseas skin. When I go to put a deck skin down, I always back it with this stuff. So now what I'm dealing with is a polypropylene core, and now I have bare polypropylene to this side. The adhesive goes to the skin, right? So that's how you solve the dissimilar materials between the deck skin and the core. Is now it's backed with this stuff, and it'll now you've solved the dissimilar materials. And now what you're going to do is you're just going to stick this to this. And it's polypropylene to polypropylene, and all you need is heat, which is awesome. And then when you go to roll all of this over here, now you have the black stuff all back here, and you have all this is polypropylene, so all that's going to stick together with heat. You don't have to worry about solving any of the dissimilar materials. If this material wasn't here, then what you have is, if you can see it on here, you have all of these layers of stuff, and just that polyethylene is not going to stick to this as well. And you're trying to roll the skin over, and you're trying to solve the dissimilar materials all at the same time. That's not as good of a way as having it all solved before you even try to roll the skin over, because now it's all that's capped off with the bumper material. So not only is it padding everything, you're also improving the benefits of how the whole construction and the thing goes together. That's the really cool thing about these deck skin backings. It's the same material. This is the same material as I use on my bumper. So same is always a good thing when you're putting stuff together like this. When materials are different, that's when you got problems. So let's see. Sterling's asking if I've ever made a mini tombstone. No, but darn it, I'm going to real soon. That's a great idea. I actually been thinking about that. So that's I need to do is I need to build a template for it. So that's the thing is like my big template that I use to make the tombstones. It's scaled up for a 42-inch big board. So I need to sit down and make a small one, which actually can be kind of fun. I just made all the minis that I'm making now. I made a whole new template about 3 or 4 minis ago. I remade my template to this wider one, and it's a much better template, more functional, and I don't have to flip flop it over. It's perfectly symmetrical and everything. So I screw it down to the core, and then I can just template cut the core pieces out. So yeah, definitely, Sterling. We should get you a little mini board. That'd be fun. Maybe we'll make a little clone board next time. Next board you get, maybe we'll just clone it up and do a tombstone mini of it. Yeah, a 38, a little stubby tombstone could be fun, Jonathan. That'd be kind of cool. Yeah, a little stubby one, huh? But make it fat, like really thick and wide, but really short. That'd be interesting. Be probably a pretty fun shore break board, just because anything short like that, you can just whip sideways real quick when you're dropping in. Board that's longer, it's kind of hard to. You got to really muscle it to get it turned sideways on the shore break. So something that's really short can be like you can just whip it right into and get into the barrel. That would be kind of fun. Well, JK is asking about how the laminator works. So, it is kind of coded technology. I mean, the basic technology, I mean, it basically is just you're blowing hot, at least my laminators, it's kind of 2 different styles of laminators. There's an infrared heat laminator and there's a hot air laminator. I've talked about a little bit about this in some of the other Boog Chats, but one blows hot air and one's just a you pass the skins past a heater. So, and then that heat activates either the foams or the adhesives, and then you squish stuff together after that in a series of rollers. So that's basically it. You're squishing materials together, and you're either blasting it with heat, forced hot air, or just passing it by an infrared heater. So those are the two basic styles of laminators. I mean, and then you just going to design your laminator for the needs. Because I've seen the laminator, the big laminator that was at the tubes factory was awesome. It did the rescue sleds, and you think the machine that puts a bodyboard together is a big machine, man. You should have seen this thing that put the rescue sleds, because it did all the HSA rescue sleds there, and that they kind of went through the same process of building the bodyboard. You have these massive. The thing was huge, man. It would have. I mean, it'd take up half my shop easy. I mean, and it was probably longer than I could even fit in here, because it has to pass that big old 6-foot long sled back and forth. So it has to have 12 feet off of each side, passing past whatever's heating it up, because you got to feed it through something, right? So you need all this footprint for this huge machine to put that thing together. So yeah, I mean, it's an interesting concept of a machine, and you got to have all kinds of things come together, especially with one like I have, the BuzzTech style ones, forced air. It really, and it has some really cool features and designs that Buzz came up with that how the machine works and controls the materials, I think, better than some of the infrared design ones that I've seen. So, as far as specs and things go, that's where I won't get too into. I mean, I can talk some general things about it, but I'm not going to get into kind of technical stuff about it. It's just that's the stuff that is kind of coveted. So, you got to use some engineering and some brain power to kind of figure out the whole process of how these materials go together. And unless you've been around it in a shop, it really is a hard thing to wrap your head around. There's so much that goes into it that people don't understand. So you got to put your time into a shop that's already doing it and learn the process. It's the only way. I mean, if you're starting from scratch, it is a really hard thing to do. You can ask Andrew back east. He's kind of he's up to speed now, but he's been doing it for a few years now. It's crazy. He's already been doing it a couple of years. So, but he didn't work in a shop. He never really had a whole lot of even tool experience. He had a lot of years in the bodyboard industry, but he had a steep learning curve just to even understand what a bandsaw was, or a router, or there's a lot of crazy things that go into it. Sessions, yeah, he's asking, is there any way to keep a board's buoyancy throughout the years? Well, there's no matter what boards you're gonna have over time. They get the skin cancer. It's just what happens to all of us and all of our boards. Sun and time just do damage on these skins. They start to crumble and get dry and fall apart. So over time, there's nothing you can do. All boards are going to have a lifespan. But as far as being buoyant, I mean, boards, I mean, unless it's taken on water and now it's heavier, it should. I mean, the foams are the foams. They're going to displace the same water over time. As long as the skins haven't deteriorated, or there's not water getting into the core and now it's all super waterlogged and then it's not as buoyant, then it's all about, if that happens, then it's all about trying to get as much of the water out and then seal the hole. That's the only thing you can do to try to kind of keep the water out, and that'll help keep the board more buoyant. If that's what the problem is, I'm just kind of speculating, but I think that might be what you're talking about. Yeah, Nick, I actually don't cover my laminator at all, because I use it so much that I keep it blown off. It really is my pride and joy here in the shop. I mean, I have a big table saw and a huge sander and all this other stuff, but really, I bought all those tools. I had to make the laminator, so really, there's a lot of really cool pride in that tool. It's like my favorite tool in the whole shop for sure. And I'm always looking to make it better too. That's the thing, is I still think it's my rough draft of a laminator. I really just drew it all up on CAD and then started going at it with a bunch of the wood that I had in my shop. And then you have to, obviously there's some metal pieces involved. All that stuff can be bought and put together. So, you just got to figure out a design of how you're going to heat stuff up and push stuff together. And then, once you have all the stuff, you still got to try to find where I get all the materials to put, you still need materials. That's a whole other thing, the materials, thing is probably just as hard as figuring out how to build a laminator, if not harder. Where are you gonna, where are you gonna get Sterling? Where are you gonna get stringers? Where are you gonna get, it's a crazy puzzle that I don't think people realize. Yeah, cool to see people connect. Hey, looks like we got 7 people. If anybody's got any questions, toss them in, man. I really want to answer questions about stuff. Yeah, shoot. We love details, but get some questions about what the scallop tails, and this is a board for Rio that I'm making, but it's the 3-to-6. It's a three to 6 channel on the bottom, and it goes from a 6 scallop on this side to a 3 on the top, which kind of blends in with, you can see the contours are laid out, but they're not cut yet on this one. So 3 scallop kind of blends in with the deck contours, and it also locks your hips and stuff right, and your thighs right into these spots on the board. So that's a really cool thing about the 3-to-6 thing, is that the points on the bottom all line up with the channel ribs, and then the top all is kind of a cohesive thing. It all blends together. It's a really cool tail. When like when you get your hips and your thighs into this tail, you'll understand why this thing feels. It looks kind of weird, but man, once you put it against your body and you're riding a wave, you'll understand why it's a superior tail than some of the other stuff that's out there. It's okay. I'll just keep on making them, and people will slowly convert. Because I'm not trying to dog a V tail or a bat tail or any of these other tails that are out there, but I've ridden most of them, and I only ride 3-to-6s these days. It's just, I don't want to waste my time when I'm in the water. I want my board to perform as good as it can when I'm in the water. I don't want anything to I don't want to compromise any detail in the board, just because my time's valuable, man. I don't want to be side slipping out and blown a wave when I could have made it if I was on my normal board, or something that performed a little better, or it holds a little bit better, man. Those critical situations, man, you don't want to be side slipping out or losing control. It really, even if it's 5% better, that's 5% better of a chance you're going to make that wave, and I'll take that. If all it is putting a little bit more time and energy into making putting an extra detail into my board, I want to do it. That's the way I've always looked at it. Yeah, Nick, just let me know, man. What Nick's thinking about going 3-to-6. I'm telling you, man. Once you go 3-to-6 and you ride it, I mean, you might still get nostalgic about riding some other stuff, but man, when you ride it on some serious waves, it really holds through turns and on steeper wave faces like no other tail and channel setup, man. It really is a really good setup. Yeah, sessions. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that want to shape it, but you be ready for if anybody can do it, I'm proof of that. It just takes time and a lot of money and patience. You can't do it overnight, and figuring out the process is one thing, and then figuring out where you're getting all the materials and then tools, and then you got all the experience of putting something together that actually looks quality and performs. That's a whole other thing. You can buy all these tools, but can you use them? And how long is it going to take and how many cores and skins and pieces of Surlyn are you going to mess up before you get one good bodyboard that you can actually sell to somebody and feel good about the whole thing, and then the customer's happy and the quality's there? I mean, that's a huge part of the process too. I mean, if you just want to make boards for yourself, it's going to cost you a lot of money, and you can't, like I said before when we were talking about skins, if you're here, you got to buy huge rolls of skin or buy sheets and 50. That's the only way you get this stuff. So there's really nobody out there that's going to sell you one piece of skin. So that's part of the problem with just being a small time shaper, is it's really expensive. Well, the science behind the session's asking about the science behind putting stuff together. That's a whole other thing. You understand all the different materials and how they all stick together or don't stick together, and then how you solve it if they don't. And then what are you going to use for a stringer? And there's, you got to source that, and core is a whole nother thing. You know, you got to buy all that stuff in bulk. You can't just buy one piece of core anywhere. It's a piece of polypropylene that's 2 inches thick, or sanded to the thickness you want it, so then you can just shape it. Then, I get people that, hey, well, you want to ask me all the time, hey, will you sell me I want to make a bodyboard, will you sell me a piece of core? And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, what are you're gonna shape out a core, then what? Oh, I hadn't thought about that. Like, where are you gonna get your Serlin? How are you gonna even, if you have all the materials, how are you gonna stick it all together? Do you have a laminator? Oh no, I didn't think about that. Well, yeah, I mean, this is a lot that goes into it. I don't want to discourage anybody, because if you want to do it bad enough, anything's possible. You just got to put a lot of time, energy, and thought, and just go at it hard, and don't give up, and don't give up on your dreams if you want to do it. That's what I did. I just kept on plowing through stuff, and I was lucky enough to be a point in my life where I had a couple businesses, and I could kind of shift gears and go from the other businesses that I was doing before this into the bodyboard thing. And that's kind of all I'm doing now. I'm really, really content just doing that. Said no to a lot of architecture stuff lately, just because I just don't want to do it. I'd rather just come out in the garage and build boards for people, man. I'm really living a good life right now. I'm happy. Just keep doing this for as long as I can. Well, sessions that, I've also been thinking about maybe, I've mentored a few people, not a few people, just really one. Andrew, I've helped out a ton for his shaping knowledge and processes and stuff. And I'm willing to share some knowledge with people, but what I've really been thinking about doing is doing small courses at some certain times, if people can actually make it here to Morro Bay, because I live in Morro Bay, California. So, if people could actually make it here, I might do a weekend course with somebody, and they pay a little extra, and I'll give them like a whole weekend of my time, and we can build a board or two for them, and they can kind of watch and see the whole process, and they can be part of the process. Just I've been thinking about doing that with it, and I've let a few people into the shop and be part of the process and just watch me make a board for them. But if you really wanted to be hands-on for a few of the things and the steps, then if you want to pick up a sander or drill the stringer hole, or do some bandsaw cuts, if you're confident with the tools, then I'm willing to let you try if you want to try it, especially in that kind of a scenario. I've really been thinking about that, because I don't think that all the knowledge of shaping should just be held on to and not shared to people, because that really stifles the whole industry. That's part of it right now, is there's just not enough shapers out there. There's boards only made in a few places these days. So, and it's partly just because people don't have the knowledge of the tools and sourcing all the materials. So if there are people out there that, have a passion for bodyboarding and want to shape, but they just don't have the knowledge of how to do it all, you got to quit hoarding all the knowledge, and some of it's got to be shared. So anyway, I'd be happy to do that, and I'm thinking about opening up the shop to some people and letting them come in and work on their own boards if they want to. So something you'd be interested, maybe hit me up with some messages and we can work out the details. Client's asking, is there any difference or feel in the 3 to 6 to a 3 to 5? No, the only difference between that is the center rib, right? So they all started off as a 3-channel on the front, like that one we had out here before. This is a 3 to 6. This is a 3 to 6, right? So you can see it starts up 3. That's all up in the front part of the board, and then this one goes 6 because obviously it gets a rib in between all the 3s. But the 5 just knocks out this center rib. This center rib's gone. So the only thing that really changes, I think it might just be a touch looser, just a touch. Because I do have my last board that I rode was a 3 to 5. Now I'm riding the 3 to 6 on my normal. I went back to the 3 to 6. I rode 3 to 5 for the last year and a half on my last board. But I went back to 3 to 6 because I didn't really feel a whole lot of difference. You can imagine you're only taking out this rib. So what are you losing out of that scenario versus a 3 to 6? It's not going to, maybe it might just be a hair looser and might not track as well, especially when you're flat. I think because you still have that outside rib when you're sitting on the tail corner and you're going a direction or something, you're going cranking through a bottom turn. I think it's still going to hold good, but I just think that it might, when you get a little bit more in a flatter situation, it's maybe where you're leaning forward for speed. That's when maybe that extra rib in the back might help track and hold the tail, so you're not side slipping a little bit less. I don't know. It's very subtle, the difference between the two, but then obviously there probably is there is a difference. So there's going to be a small amount of difference. Yeah, if anybody else has any questions, fire them away. I'm totally happy to talk about stuff. We got, like I said, we got 3 to 6. We got a straight 3 here, which is pretty cool. I really like this tail still. We got the V tail. This is V tail. The old clip crescent. This one I actually kept the pegs on real small. This is Trevor's board, Trevor Solberg. He's DK guy, but usually, DK guys like a full crescents, but Trevor really likes the clip crescent. So I'm trying to minimize the clips on it slowly before and work it over about 5 or 6 boards. I might get into a full crescent. Got the Wi-Fi on the fly on this one. This one's going to Big Island for a guy named Matt. I made a few boards for him. He really likes the Wi-Fi. It's a quad Wi-Fi. Full crescent. DK going to Maui, and then another 3 to 6 back here. This is Andy's board. He's a SoCal guy down in San Diego. Super cool dude. So yeah, those are kind of some of the tails that are in this board set of boards. Pretty much darn near all. I don't have a bat tail in there, but I darn near have everything else. Anybody? Yeah, fire some questions away, guys. It looks like we have a couple people here. If anybody's got any questions, throw them away. We're doing pretty good on time still. I know I'm pretty stoked on the contours on this little mini. This is for a guy. This isn't the one, but I'm gonna do the same contours on that. This is kind of real similar to the other one that I'm gonna do. This one actually is gonna be up on the website as well. It's an extra little mini, but these contours actually work pretty well if you stop to think about how you hold on to a mini, just depending on what you're doing. You kind of having this little bit of extra palm, but then you're almost working like a little bit of a nose bulb up here, just because you're recessing it. And you still have something right underneath your palm there. Plus, I still put nose bulbs on my minis too, so the nose feels almost like the corner feels almost like a big board, but you got a little board. And then unless you're driving it like a truck. Some guys just drive it like a truck, right? Like this, but some guys, you might drop your hand back in here, and then you almost get like a palm kind of situation back into this thing here. And then it's a 3, just a straight 3 channel, 3 scallop. I don't think you're gonna lock your hips into this unless you're real small. But heck, if you're a little grom, and this thing might be perfect for you. If you're just a little tiny grom, you might be able to lay down and prone this thing and lock your hips into this like a big guy would on a big board. But interesting. Really liking these contours though. Pretty cool for a mini. Probably gonna be the standard mini contour I do on a lot of boards. For the minis, I'm a real fan of that old setup right there. Yeah, if anybody's got any questions, fire away. Shoot. Not much swell coming for me this week. I think it's going to be pretty small for the next few days, which means I got a lot of time to work on boards. I'm also working on some cabinets and stuff too for local barber shop. I've been working on some stuff in and out of this barber shop for 2.5 years, making it real nice inside there. But every couple months I'd do some new cabinets that are inside of it just to kind of dial it in even more. It's coming out pretty sweet. All mahogany and bird's eye maple inlays and stuff. It's pretty trick. Yeah, that's the ebb and flow of surfing, Jonathan, is that, there's good days and then it goes, but I don't know. That's why you got to really appreciate when it is good. I think that's one of the secrets of that's one of the beautiful things about surfing is that you can't, you maybe can't go every day, if you're lucky. I mean, even the best places in the world don't fire every day. The North Shore goes completely flat like a lake in the summertime. You can't surf out there. It's just completely flat like a lake and glassy. I'm sure they have trade winds and stuff that still maybe blow, but there are 0 waves. And then come wintertime, it's the biggest waves you'll ever see in your life. So, that's just the ebb and flow. And the beautiful thing of surfing is that you can't go every day, and when it is good, I guess you got to be ready. Well, yeah, there's nothing worse than having a great surf. You've been sitting around, waiting, and then all of a sudden the perfect day's coming, and oh shoot, I got some obligation. I gotta work. God forbid you got to work, and can't go. And the white waves are firing, and all your friends are out there, and they're scoring, and you can't go because you got some meeting or got to go to work or whatever you're doing, whatever obligation you got to take your kid to or soccer game or whatever it is. That's the bummer thing about it makes you even want it more when you can go, and makes you do appreciate it when you can go. So yeah, you got to go when it's good though. I've been lucky, and I put my time in and had to drive by really good surf for a lot of years, and I'm kind of blessed now that I have most of my mornings I can blow off if I want to and get out there and get in the water. But I give up my weekends for that. I work. I don't have a Saturday or Sunday. I just go every single day. Um, yeah, so I just go every single day. But that gives me the freedom to be able to play a little bit every single day. If I have to, if the waves are good, I go. It's just what it is. Um, Jonathan, if the first trip to Hawaii, yeah, for sure. I would think Oahu, or if you want something maybe just a little slower, is Maui. Maui's another really good option as well. But I'd say those two islands to start with are very good, very good. I mean, if you want to get even more rural, even though I haven't really been to Kauai, I've heard is beautiful too, but I haven't been to Kauai yet, or the Big Island. I really want to visit both of those islands. I just haven't been yet. I really tend to go to Oahu a lot, and I've been starting to go to Maui more. I really want to start spending more time on Maui. There's a lot of really good people on Maui. I almost want to go to Maui just for the people more than I do the waves, just because I enjoy the people that I hang out with there. It's a lot of fun. Not that I don't enjoy my time on Oahu. I've met some amazing people on Oahu, and have some pretty much lifelong friends there too. So I'm very blessed to know some people there, and I'm grateful for them opening up their houses and letting me come. It really is a blessing that I get I have a couple places and options to stay over there now. It's one of the benefits of doing all this, I suppose, is bringing people boards, and they're going, "Oh my God, you got my board, and oh, so good to see you this year." And man, it's such a blessing. Um, One of the benefits I never really planned on that I'm so grateful for. It's crazy. Yeah, Oahu's great, and you can go in the summertime too. You just got to stay on the town side, That it just, and if you want the hustle and bustle, you have that on Oahu. If you want to get rural, you just go out to the North Shore, and you'll wake up to chickens every morning. It's just how it is. It's the full on country out there. That's where the word town and country comes from. Is you have the town side and the countryside. There's definitely two faces to Oahu. I mean, you really can get as rural as you want in Oahu. It gets as rural as you want, or as hustle and bustle in Oahu, and Honolulu and Waikiki just is feels like you're in LA or San Francisco. It's a massive, massive city. So just people and traffic. If you want to, and all the shopping and malls, and but summertime, that's where the waves are at. So Ala Moana is really fun, and Kings and Queens, and all of the spots that are in town out around Diamond Head. I've surfed at a few spots. I've surfed off of Diamond Head and Ala Moana. And there's a couple. Those are pretty much the only spots in town I've surfed. Just because usually when I'm there in the wintertime, and I'm not really on that side of the island. I don't really go to there for town side anyway. I'm more of a north. I like being out in the country stuff. I like a little less hustle and bustle in my life. Yeah, I'd say Oahu is a great place, and like I said, there's some amazing places to explore there. You don't really have to stay. You don't have to do Pearl Harbor and feel like you missed something. There's so many cool things to see on Oahu, and drives you can take, and just amazing scenery, and you can get away from it all. It's a really beautiful place. Well, yeah, Jonathan, you're over on the East Coast, so really, you got the option to get over to Europe. Where for me, it's halfway around the world. I'm looking at going maybe South Pacific or South America. I really haven't been, or Central America. Actually, Central America is something I'd rather do before any of them, really, because I've done Hawaii so much. And the next step really is Central America. Or even mainland Mexico. I wouldn't mind doing that. I guess that is part of Central America, but I'm talking even further down. I'd like to get a little bit further down and explore just a few spots down there. It'd be kind of fun. it's always good to have some things on the radar and some hopes and dreams. Yeah, Costa Rica would be amazing. Yep, I've heard some amazing things about down there. So, well, we're getting down to the nitty gritty here. We got about 5 minutes left. So if anybody's got any pressing questions, hit me up, man. Yeah, I really looking forward to my trips to Oahu and Maui maybe this year. I'm really trying to do both. It's my plan, but we'll see. We'll see. Just one trip would be, enough. But I might be getting greedy trying to do both in a year. But why not? If you can swing it, why not? Even if I might have to go late season, I've always enjoyed. Some of my best times going to Hawaii have been in February and March after the old school Triple Crown days. I did all the Triple Crowns in my early days, and then I was like, after that, I never wanted to go back during the Triple Crown times in the winter. I always wanted to go after, I think late season actually is even the best time in winter there because all the hustle and bustle and all the circus goes away on the North Shore. It slows down a little bit. It's still busy, but it's not like during the old school Triple Crown days. Which I wonder if now that they're not doing quite as much, I wonder if it's not as busy there these days. Because they're not doing the true Triple Crown anymore, from what I can tell. It's a little bit different format. But yeah, I was so lucky I got to see all the true Triple Crown contests. Even though I'm not a stand-up surfer, I still appreciate watching those guys get out there and stand-up surf. The sunset competition I got to watch, where Mick Fanning won that year. It was just pumping sunset. The waves are breaking so big and so far out to sea. It was insane, man. That was pretty awesome to watch that year. It was amazing. I don't see how they mustered the courage to even paddle out there. No thank you, man. It was pretty much just closing out all of sunset. It was just an absolute washing machine. Oh man, no thank you. No way would I paddle out into that. Even with jet skis, I don't want that beating, man. Holy cow, I can't even imagine. I belong right where I was at on the beach taking pictures. So yeah, but yeah, I wonder how the North Shore is now that the Triple Crown isn't around. I'm sure it's slowed down quite a bit. It's probably not quite as hustle and bustle as it was during those times. Yeah, maybe I'll get to see it this time because I'm hoping to go in December. So that would have been right around when they used to do the Pipe Masters. But I don't, now the Pipe Masters is way off into the first part of the year, and it's not during December anymore. Oh, Jonathan, you're asking about duck diving tips. Yeah, I mean, duck diving there's no substitute besides just going out there and getting pounded and learning the timing of it all. I think the timing is the most critical thing. Is what the wave and being able to read what the wave's doing and where you put yourself in the whole scenario where how the wave is going to crash. That's the what you do before you even duck dive is probably more important than when you're doing it. Where you put yourself and how you approach the wave that's coming at you is probably the most important thing with duck diving. Is if you're in the wrong spot, it goes the old saying, "As the wave is here, don't be there." It's the same thing. Don't be there. You just don't put yourself in the impact zone of that lip, or you're going to get smashed. And so if you're doing it, it's better just to sit and wait and let that thing break. And I think Mike Stewart has some really cool things that I saw a picture one time about how the wave explodes and what you do and where you can position yourself to get underneath the wave better. And I've tried to listen to that and try to pay attention to it. And there is a spot where when that thing hits, and if you dive just right in front of that, there's like this weird vortex that happens underneath there. And it really does help you get up and underneath that once you understand how to push the board down and time that right and get your board. It's like I don't know how to explain it. And also there's all kinds of different, okay, do I push with my knee? How far down do I need to go? I mean, is it a crumbly white watery thing coming at you, or is it a full on lip coming over at you? There's all kinds of different scenarios you can put yourself in, and it really it changes the techniques of what you're doing and how you're going to punch through and get through the wave. So I mean, there's so many scenarios that I could talk about, but if it's just a little crumbly whitewater wave, you don't really have to do a whole lot. I mean, but you still got to get underneath it. And those are the easiest ones to learn the timing with. I think that's a great place to start, is try to find a little crumbly whitewater thing, nothing that's really coming over and barreling or nothing, but something that's just kind of crumbling at you and you still got to get underneath it. Those are the best ways to practice and learn on. It's just you know, and it really is what I do is I tend to like almost do like a push up, you know, so I'm going to get like up on my board as high as I can like this. And then I take and kind of push down with that. It all starts with like this push up. You get as high up off the top of your board and try to straighten your arms out and then push your board down. You got to get your board under the water almost before your body goes under. So, and then all of a sudden the wave will start grabbing your board and pulling it through if you're doing it right. Once you get your board down, the wave's usually sucking towards it, the wave, so it's going to grab your board and start pulling it almost away from you. So that's when you want to get underneath and go with it, and it should start to grab you and help you pull, because that wave is going to suck up and do this once, and the more intense it gets, the more intense that suck gets. And that's where if you don't push through hard enough and that wave grabs you, that's one of the worst things that can possibly happen, is getting sucked back over the falls on a wave. I mean, if you don't punch through hard enough on really sucky, barrely waves, it's just going to grab you and huck you right back over into the lip, into whatever's making it barrel. And that's not going to be a good time. I can promise you. Don't go over the falls. That's rule number one about duck diving. Do whatever it takes not to get sucked over the falls. That's the worst. I remember one time I was at Rincon, and I'd been out at Rincon down here in Southern California. Everybody knows it like Queen of the Coast. It was just pumping that day. It was like 8 foot, and I'd been out there for like 3 hours. I was so spent just swimming back and forth up the point. And I remember I caught a wave and kind of got washed into the inside, and it was a little bit overhead on the sets. And I was trying to get back out. I was swimming even away from the breaking wave down the point, like trying to just ride the current out. And I just got caught by a pretty solid wave, and I still tried to duck dive and get underneath it, and I just went straight back up and over the falls backwards. Luckily I didn't hit the rocks, because I was right on the turn, or if you know where Rincon, it's all just full of like big boulders on the inside. Luckily I didn't hit any of those, and I just put my tail between my legs and got washed down the point and swam in. I knew as soon as I went over backwards, I didn't have the energy to duck dive anymore. It was time to get out. I'd been out there. I'd caught a bunch of waves already, so I was like, okay, time to go. Yeah, so duck diving, you got to try to get your board down in, and it's a lot of timing. Don't put yourself in the wrong spot. That's one of my biggest tips is don't put yourself in the wrong place. You don't want to be in an impact zone of that lip ever. And practice. And and if God forbid you got to ditch your board, because sometimes it happens, man. You end up in that impact zone where you're in the worst spot possible. There's no shame, man. Get rid of your board and swim down as deep as you can. Look around, make sure there's nobody behind you too. I think having some spatial awareness when you're duck diving, because sometimes you don't make it underneath and the wave grabs you and rattles you around and rips the board out of your hand. Sometimes that happens. But that's why it's good to make sure you look around and know who is there anybody else behind me, where if I don't make this duck dive and I get ripped back and pushed back, I don't want to be going back into anybody. So it's good to have some facial awareness around you when you're duck diving. You don't want to get tangled up with somebody else or hurt somebody else by getting smashed into them, or them hurting you. It's a two-way street where somebody's in front of you, you don't really want to be behind somebody. Kind of when they're going to duck dive, one of the worst places to be is right behind them, because whatever happens with them is under their control, and then you're right behind them. So it's better to kind of try to offset instead of you following somebody right behind. You see a wave going, they're going to have to duck dive it. Get away from them, try to paddle away just a little bit, and give them a little bit of space, and you try to duck dive in a different section. That's maybe another little tip that I got. There's all kinds of little things, and all this stuff you'll learn over time, because you'll get into scenarios where, God, why did I do that? Why did I put myself there? And then you learn the hard way. That's definitely part of being out there. Sometimes you learn the hard way, and those are the lessons you learn or remember. Those are the ones that stick with you. Those are the ones that hurt. The little lessons, they add up over time, but the big ones that hurt, boy, you learn a lot real quick on those. Well, sounds like I'm blabbering past 7 o'clock. So unless anybody's got any questions, maybe I'll start to look to wrap this up. Yep. Timing is huge, where you, like I said, don't put yourself in the wrong spot. Timing and how you get your board down under the water, and once you get good at it too, and you can get your board under the water, you want to start thinking about trying to kick a little bit too, especially if you're under the water, and if you can get a few kicks in and you really need to get down, That's when you know you're starting to get better at duck diving. Is that you can get a few kicks in. You're pushing your board down. You're penetrating enough. You're getting down under the water enough to where you're not going right back up to the surface. Then you're under long enough to where you can start kicking. That's when you know you're getting good with duck diving. Is when you get some getting kicks in. And you know what else helps is when you're in warm water and you don't have a wetsuit on, man, because the wetsuit that for me, because I wear a super thick wetsuit, it just pops me to the surface super fast. It makes duck diving even harder because all that neoprene just makes you buoyant and pushes you up to the top, which is a good thing. You know, it really, you know, if you're getting smashed and getting tossed and doing donuts, it's nice to have a little buoyancy that just pushes you up to the top quicker than without a wetsuit on. It really isn't kind of nice to have. But when you're trying to duck dive and trying to penetrate and get underneath a wave, it's not the best thing. And that's why it's a heck of a lot easier to duck dive in warm water without a wetsuit. Man, I've noticed that by all my years in Hawaii is that I get over there and I can just duck dive like nobody's business because I'm so used to duck diving with this thick hooded 5'4" wetsuit on all the time that you shred all that off. And when I go down, I can get probably double the amount of kicks as I can in over there than I can at home, just because I'm always popping up so fast with the wetsuit. So now that's another thing is, you know, those different warm water versus cold water is a whole nother thing. You know, maybe we'll talk about some of that stuff over in another chat, but maybe I want to start wrapping this up. So if anybody has any last little comments, questions, or whatever you want to get in, I do appreciate everybody showing up and throwing some questions and comments in. It really does help the hour go by like it just goes by like that. Yeah, hopefully I'll be back to doing these things every week, and we'll just do it again next week. And I want to keep on cranking out boards. And you know, if you're not following on the social media stuff, you know, I do a lot on Instagram. I'm starting to get a little bit more of my Instagram and Facebook linked up, so there's a little bit more of the story action that I do on Instagram's going over to Facebook now. So I just spend most of my time on Instagram. I don't really have a lot of time for Facebook these days. So anyway, yeah, you can keep up with all the stuff that I do on Instagram. I post a lot of stuff in the story there about the building process. If you really want to watch and learn, there's a lot of a lot of good pictures and things that I show in the process that you know, I can show some of the stuff here, but you get a lot more there if you're following along day to day. So, and like I said, if you got any questions, if you've been watching all this and you didn't get a chance to see it live, you got any questions about anything I talked about, or you got any suggestions about future topics too, man, I really want, you know, I sometimes I struggle. I'm like getting down to the wire. I'm like, what am I going to talk about this week? I need a couple of topics. I'm just blabbering on. So, yeah. So if anybody's got any ideas or topics they want me to talk about, just toss them into the comments, and then I'll either respond to them or we'll just make it a comment for the next week. I do appreciate everybody showing up. So yeah, I guess I'll just sign off and I'll just say ciao for now. Thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you next week. Thanks for coming out. Ciao.